Hi guys, let's continue with the proteins. Okay, let's start with the protein structures. Okay. We studied how we can form a polypeptide chain. Okay, so quick recap: form a peptide bond, and this is an amide linkage. Okay, it's a condensation reaction, and we remove a water molecule. Okay, and these are connected together in a very long chain to form a polypeptide. Okay, now let's study protein structures. Now, on the basis of different levels of protein synthesis. Okay, different levels of protein synthesis and modification. Okay, and it's modification, the basis of two things. We come into final modification into a final functional. Functional means that it performs the function, okay, that it's made for. Okay, the final functional structure. Okay, on these two bases there are four levels of protein structures. We're going to study that. The first level is the primary. Okay, now let's define this. This is very important. You need to learn these definitions. Okay, now primary structure is a particular types of amino acids. Okay, specific types. Okay, and they have a specific sequence as well. Okay, two things. Okay, in which they are arranged. Okay, arranged in a polypeptide chain. Okay, connected together through peptide bonds. Okay, and they form a long polypeptide chain. That's basically the primary structure, or in simpler words, the very basic structure of protein. Okay, and each amino acid, okay, this representation can be represented using a 3-letter abbreviation. Okay, so for example, glycine, as we studied above, okay, before, it can be represented by GLY. For ease of displaying the chain. Okay, just for that. And tyrosine, for example, it represented by TYR. And for example, we also studied alanine. Okay, the CH3 radical. It can be represented by ALA. Okay. Similarly, many other amino acids. And here you can see it's a demonstration of a polypeptide chain. It's going on and on in both directions. Okay, it's a very long chain. It's connected. Amino acids are connected. This thing is showing the peptide bond. Okay, the CN bond. Okay, now this is an important thing. Okay, even if only one amino acid is altered. Okay, in the primary structure. Okay, let's say I remove one amino acid, or I add one amino acid, or I shift one amino acid, or I swap places with an amino acid, or whatever. Any single change will result in the change in the structure of the protein. Okay, in the primary structure of the protein, and it also affects the secondary and tertiary structure. Okay, this results in the changing of the whole functional property of that protein. So it may end up disrupting the functional nature of the protein. So for example, let me give you an example. For example, if we have hemoglobin, okay, we'll study that in a while later. Okay, hemoglobin, if I remove any amino acid, then it can possibly damage the whole tertiary, okay, and secondary structures, and it can disrupt its ability to transport oxygen, okay, efficiently. Okay, now we're done with the primary structure. Okay, let's move on to the secondary structure. Now, the secondary structure, when the polypeptide chain, okay, the polypeptide chain from the primary structure, okay, when it's coiled in one direction, okay, when it's bended in one direction, when it's turned in one direction, okay, due to hydrogen bonding. Okay, this is important, between the partial negative oxygen of the carbon double bond with oxygen groups, okay, and hydrogen partial positive of nitrogen hydrogen groups. Okay, the hydrogen bonding between these two, okay, will cause a change in the primary structure of the protein. Okay, like in a change in the sense that bends to form a secondary structure, bends in one direction. Okay, this is also important, bends in one direction to form a secondary structure of the protein. Okay, now there are different types of secondary structures based on the pattern of hydrogen bonding and how we bend the primary structure, but two main types, okay, the two most common ones and in the syllabus. The first type is an alpha helix. Okay. Pretty simple. Let's see what this is. Okay, get a close look at this. Okay, now in alpha helix we have a fixed pattern of hydrogen bonding. Now well, how is it fixed? It shows a fixed pattern of hydrogen bonds between every next fourth amino acid, okay, in a polypeptide chain, like as you can see, okay, here. Okay, it's a very good demonstration. Okay, it shows the partial charges and the hydrogen bonds between every fourth, okay, every next fourth amino acid, and this structurally results in this, okay, something like this, in a spiral pattern. Okay, and this result in a making of highly stable, okay, flexible and helical. Okay, it's important for its, okay, structures. An example of this, okay, example of a protein, okay, is elastin. Okay, it has a structure like this. Okay, as you can see, I also have one first amino acid connected to the fifth amino acid, and so on and so forth. And the second secondary structure is a beta pleated sheet structure. Okay, we have no fixed pattern of hydrogen bonding. Okay, no fixed pattern of hydrogen bonding. Yes, a beta pleated sheet. Sorry, it was spelling mistake, not sheet. Okay, we have no fixed pattern of hydrogen bonding. This is the main difference between the alpha helix and the beta pleated sheet. Okay, let's see. Okay, and here you can see we have not just like in one sense. Okay, like it's twisting here, then it goes on and twists here as well. Okay, so it's like twisting, okay, from left and from the right. Okay, their hydrogen forms are formed randomly but between every adjacent amino acid, okay, in a polypeptide chain, like this. Okay, this is an adjacent amino acid, this one and this one. Okay, this one, and similarly like this. Okay, now this results in a very interesting structure. Okay, it's like this sheet. Okay, like you have a sheet and you bend it through left. Here is a bend, okay, and here is a bend. Okay, and you bend it like this, you end up getting a sheet. Okay, you have for example aluminum foil. Okay, it's a very good example of this. You can bend it at certain points and you can form a beta pleated sheet. Okay, this results in the making of a less coiled. Okay, so comparing with alpha helix, it's less coiled, it's compressed. Okay, it's stable and it's a straighter structure. Okay, as you can see, it's straight. Okay, like this. Okay, here more not very bends. Okay, not that helical, it's not helical. Okay, now let's go on to the tertiary structure. Now the tertiary structure is quite long. Okay, now what happens is when the secondary structure of a polypeptide chain, now we're talking about the secondary structure, it's further coiled into a 3D ball like structure. Okay, up till now we were talking in one direction bending and hydrogen bondings between the partial negative oxygen and the partial positive hydrogens. Okay, it was you can consider it in 2D type of thing. Okay, but now we have come to 3D ball like structure. Okay, like a ball. Okay, due to the impact okay, of different types of bondings, okay, between the R groups, okay, of different amino acids. Now this is variable, this is very variable now, because here's the reason: it depends on the R group, okay. We can have different types of amino acids, okay, and different arrangements. We can have a million types of these bendings, okay, and different shapes or different structures, okay. It's very um, varied structures, okay. Different amino acids in that chain, which are, okay, now specific bondings are named: hydrogen bonds, ionic bonds, disulfide bonds, okay, and hydrophobic interaction. We will be seeing each of them separately, okay. Let's start with hydrogen bonding. It's pretty simple. We have two R groups, okay, and in this R groups we end up having an OH, okay. You can see we have a partial positive hydrogen here, okay, it's partial positive, and then we have a carbon oxygen double bond, okay. It doesn't matter, okay, as long as you have the partial negative oxygen and partial positive hydrogen, okay, in these groups, okay, and it can be any R group, okay. It can form hydrogen bonds, okay, CO and H or OH, okay, etc. Okay, it can form the R groups, okay, between the R groups of two amino acids in a polypeptide chain. Very simple, like this, okay. These are the hydrogen bonds, okay. Now let's moving on to the ionic bonds, okay. Ionic bonds are between the ionized carbon, this ion COO negative ion, and NH3 plus ion. We saw them in Switter ion in when we studied about the amphoteric nature of amino acids, okay. And so if we have these in the R groups now, okay, then they can form ionic bonds between them, okay, between amino acids in a polypeptide chain, like this, okay. It's an ionic bond. Moving further, now disulfide bond. Now this is a new thing, okay. Now disulfide bond is a type of a covalent bond, okay. It's a type of a covalent bond. It's formed between sulfurs, between the sulfurs in the R groups of two, okay, cysteine amino acids, okay, in a polypeptide chain. So, and let's just see what's cysteine amino acid, okay. The structure is like this, okay. This is very important, you need to remember this. The box represents the CH and COOH and NH2, okay. It's the same in every amino acid. This complete thing is the R group, okay. CH2 connected to an SH, okay. Now how exactly does this form? Now here what happens, okay, the main role is of only SH, okay. Now how does this happen? As you can see, we have two SH, okay, here. Now these hydrogens, okay, these hydrogens, they form bonds, okay, between them, and they are removed as hydrogen gas molecule, as a hydrogen gas molecule, and what we end up getting is a disulfide bond, which is basically a single bond between two sulfur atoms, okay. It's just this, okay. Moving further, hydrophobic interactions, okay. Now hydrophobic interactions, these, okay, now they are formed between non-polar, okay, R groups, okay. They are weak interactions between the non-polar R groups of different amino acids in a polypeptide chain, okay. They form, however, they are weak, but they form very strong and stable foldings, okay, due to the common repulsion from the surrounding water, okay. Let's see the diagram. So consider we have three non-polar R groups, okay, and they form bond, okay, they form the interactions, okay, although these interactions are weak, okay, but due to the repulsion, okay, due to the repulsion with the polar water, okay, we have surrounding this surrounded by water, okay, since they are non-polar, they repel each other, okay. So due to the kind of repulsive force acting on them, what happens, these interactions turn out to be very strong, okay, they form very strong bonds, okay. It's actually really stable also, okay. These folds, because these folds like exclude the water out, okay, because obviously they are non-polar and the water is a polar, okay. That's pretty simple. Okay. Okay, that's it for this video. We will meet in the next video. We'll continue proteins, okay. Till then, take care.